Thanks for logging on to Wayne.com for another edition of Inside the Zone. Alongside Blake Sebring of the News Sentinel, I'm Glenn Marini, and Komets hockey had a great week this past week. They pick up 5 points, play very well, start to decrease that gap and move closer to perhaps a possible playoff spot. Blake, what do you take away from this week? As we've only got 4 weeks of regular season hockey left, 12 games.
Well, it's possible they can make the playoffs. It's still a long, long shot. But at least there's a little hope because they did play well, and they did get Gabe Gunsel and Nick Schaus, and Jeff Delorier kept playing as great as he has, so there's a chance.
I think the biggest week, you already touched on it, is the addition of the 2 defensemen that they got from Norfolk, specifically Schaus, because we saw him score on Friday and then we saw him score on Saturday, both pretty big goals in terms of the grand scheme of things.
Oh yeah, without him, it's over. The season's done essentially, because they desperately needed both of those goals to be in those 2 games, and if they don't have them, it's over. They really are in a spot where they have to get points out of every game the rest of the way. Like Al Sims said today, because of that 6-game losing streak they had, they pretty much could win every game the rest of the way and still not make the playoffs.
And right now they're 7 points behind Florida for that 8th and final playoff spot in the Eastern Conference. 2 huge games this weekend.
Win or go home.
Here at the Coliseum against Florida, against Brett Henley, who well, it's a slight bit lighter this week. But as far as the defensemen go that you touched on, how key was it to add them at the time they did, where everyone is looking for quality defensemen at this point in the year?
Basically, you think about it, they've added 4 defensemen in the last 3 weeks with Jamie Milam and Jeremy Gates, and now Nick Schaus and Gabe Gunsel. And Gunsel and Schaus are a #1 defensive pairing, which they haven't been able to have. When they lost Maggio, they lost 1 #1 defenseman essentially, and you haven't been able to replace that. And now you've replaced it finally, and look how much better they played. You've got more depth now on the defensive end, and they make things happen.
And I was at the game on Wednesday night here against Toledo, and I'll tell you what, Delorier just looks unbelievable in the goal.
He's just at home there. I don't know how else to put it. He's so calm. No matter what's going on around him, he's the same. And I think you can see that, and I think his teammates are gaining confidence from that. And he has been able to make the game-saving save a few times, the momentum-changing save that Komets had not been getting this year.
And on Wednesday night, there were a handful of positives that you could take from that. Obviously, you don't like losing the lead like you did, especially in the 3rd period. But to come out and grit that out and to put up 5 goals when they had been searching for many goals, that was nice to see. And also Colin Shellock with his 1,000th point in the regular season. He's not going to talk a lot about the personal accolades, but what does that mean?
Well, there's only been 70 guys in the history of minor league hockey who've done that. I think there's only been 3, Eddie Long and Len Thornton and now Chalker, I think, are the only ones for the Komets who've ever done that. That's amazing. There's been guys who have done it who played here for a little time, like Scott Gruel, Barry Scully, I believe, is up there. Len Ronson is up there, I believe. There's been some guys like that. But to spend the majority of your career in one place, I don't know that we'll ever see that again, just because of the way the system is set up now.
And J.M. Risk is certainly...
big.
We saw him, he was conceivably their MVP for the first couple of months of the season, scored a ton. He went up to the AHL, then when he came back there was a little bit of a drought, but he's starting to find the back of the net more frequently now.
December and January, he was the best player on the ice. Brandon Marino's probably been the most consistent all year. I don't know if there's any game where he took the night off. But JM was the defensive stalwart. He was dominating games with his defense, with his forecheck there for 2 months. And then he went into the slump in February just like everybody else. And now he's seeming to get it back, and that's huge. If you can get some production out of all 3 lines, that's unbelievable at this time.
And guys are getting healthy. Beauregard, Chalk, getting healthy at the right time of the season. Hoban, though, is one of the situations that certainly Komets fans are monitoring. What's the latest with Mike Hoban?
Well, he played 2 games last weekend, and his shoulder's still bugging him, and he set out practice today. A couple guys set out practice today. It was kind of an optional type deal. But they all said that they'll be ready to go for this weekend. Now, we'll see. Mike obviously won't be. He's on 21-day IR, I believe. But Scott Kishel's ready to go. John Dunbar will be ready to go next week. And then by then, you might have to make some decisions on some roster spots.
And certainly some decisions to be made this week regarding, are you going to make some moves? Are you not going to make some moves? The recall reassignment deadline is Wednesday night, 11:59.
That's for guys who are not on your primary affiliate, and that's for like a Kenny Ryder. I think Kenny has to be back here by 11:59 if he's going to play in the playoffs, but he may not. He may not. I mean, he's been playing really, really well at Bridgeport. They may just keep him the rest of the year. That's for basically for teams that are going to send other teams that are not your primary affiliate that are going to send guys down. They need to be down by then.
Like Maggio, for instance.
No, yeah, that's possible. Yeah, Maggio would be another one that would be a good possibility. Yeah, I was thinking more of the rookie thing with Madge like last year. But that's still open too. You can sign amateur players from college or juniors at any time as long as their primary season is finished.
And the trade deadline is then Thursday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so perhaps we'll see some transactions there. But the Komets have only made a couple of two trades this year. The most recent one involving dealing Brent Henley, who they'll see Friday and Saturday. You see the Komets making any moves, anything major? Because we've seen them add juniors in the past, Keith Roger, and then
I think he'll do
stayed
that.
on, and then
Hodgman,
Tom Neely.
And Hodgman,
Yeah.
I mean, they've done pretty well with that. They really have. Now we'll see how well they do at this level and see how that works. I see that mainly as a way to get guys for next year, to get them into the fold early, so you can get your hooks on them and protect them. Put them on your protected list this summer, maybe. Looking at it that way. Again, you don't know, are they going to be able to keep Gensel and Schaus? Are they going to be here? Is Delorier going to be here? You don't know. You have no control over that, which has got to be the most maddening thing about the whole process.
4 games, as I mentioned, or 4 weeks, I should say, 12 games. What do you need to see from the Komets to give them their best opportunity to make the playoffs? Because like you said, they could go 10-2 and not make it.
Again, we've talked about it all year, and if the power play, if they could get 1 power play goal a game, what would that mean? It would be tremendous. And if you think about it, they spent all year trying to fix the power play. They signed Gioso and Marino because they thought they would be good power play guys, partially, And then they went and got Milam, and now they've got Schaus and Gensel. It's like, and they went and got Ciro. All those guys were acquired, especially for the power play, and it hasn't come around yet. If it ever comes around, they could be dangerous. Because they're already playing great defense. They're a great road team. Again, they go on the road and they're wonderful. At home, we'll see. And 8 of the 12 games left are at home. So we'll just have to see. Yeah,
Komets power play ranked 23rd out of 23 teams. 27 goals on the power play this year. That's 7 behind the team that's ranked 22nd. So there's a fairly large gap, and that has been a problem all season long.
It's been the problem. It really has. If you can score 1 goal per game, you're not even scoring 1 goal every 3 games, essentially. What would that have meant when they were in so many tight games this year?
So you believe this is, if they don't,
period,
this is the weekend?
Yep, this is it. And they think so too. If they got to win both of them, they got to win both of them in regulation, because they're chasing Florida. You cannot give up even overtime losses or shootout losses to Florida, because they're gaining points on you then, no matter what. And you're running out of time. And then you got to go to Elmira, same deal. You're chasing them too. You just, every game from here on in is must win, no excuses. You've killed yourself because of that 6-game losing streak when you lost your margin for error. There really isn't any anymore.
Yeah, and you've got Kalamazoo just a point above, or actually tied with you point-wise in the standings. You don't have to just
and all
beat
these teams have games in hand, too. Florida's game in hand is Wednesday in Cincinnati. Cincinnati's the hottest team in the league right now. Komets need Cincinnati to help them, or they're going to be 9 points down going into Friday's game. And then, that's what you're looking at. You got a scoreboard watch.
What do they need to do well against Florida? Because Florida obviously knows how to win. You're talking about a defending champion. Henley's down there. There's going to be a little extra juice, I think, when you see him out there on the ice. What do you need to do against Florida this week to be successful? Like
we talked about, Glenn, how did they go attack Charlie Effinger when he was in Missouri last year in the playoffs? When they're down 2-0, they went in, just nuts on him and crashed the net, and they were going to do whatever it took. It's time. It really is time. No excuses anymore. If you want to play in April, this is it. I mean, you got to win March, period. You got to win them all. I mean, and they know it, and they know they put themselves in this position. It's like, that's all it is. I mean, that's it. Nuts and bolts, period. You have to win every game.
All right, they have their backs against the wall, but we have seen them in this situation before and come out with a cup.
And imagine if they do this, how they'll be going into the playoffs. I mean,
I wouldn't want to face them as a 1 seed.
Yeah.
Or a 2 seed, perhaps, depending on how it all shakes out.
I mean, man, that would be kind of scary.
And playing at the Jungle, not exactly the best place to play if you're an opponent in the postseason. Could be very interesting.
Yeah.
But again, we've only got 12 games left in the Komets season, and we'll be here every step of the way. He's Blake Sebring. I'm Glenn Marini, and we'll see you again next week for Inside the Zone.